the strength of the living oral tradition, and precisely because it happens to be an oral tradition, notwithstanding the number of libraries and institutions that have been burnt and razed to the ground, these traditions have survived. And therefore, the value of this oral tradition is something that is incomparable and it can't be measured. Not just that, when a society depends on an oral tradition, it points, according to me, to a very different issue altogether. One is that obviously we believe in the sanctity of the sound and its relationship with creation. So obviously there is a reference to Nada Brahmam on a regular basis whenever you emphasize on the importance and the power behind sound. But secondly, from sound it comes down to the tongue, which effectively means you understand the power of the tongue and you also understand that any statement or word that you give, you are expected to maintain and preserve the integrity and sanctity of that word. Which is why when people say that Indians don't have a sense of history, Indians don't have a sense of documentation, I say no, we have actually put faith in honor codes. We have actually put faith in the integrity of the individual. And therefore, when someone makes a promise, we hope that the person will actually live up to the promise, whether or not that particular promise has been captured in writing. That is exactly why this particular civilization puts faith in oral tradition so much. But the reason that you're forced to actually document it is because you have now come under the influence of a certain culture which fundamentally believes that human beings are depraved, and unless and until there is something that is captured in writing, it is not possible to take that person's word seriously. So that shows the distinction between two cultures. One believes that human beings are fundamentally good and there is a repository of divine consciousness in them, and therefore you can put faith in them. The other believes that not just are you a flock of sheep, you're also born in the mold of a sinner in the first place, and therefore you need an external sanction, you need an external stick to keep you in line and to keep you in order. That is the distinction. So if at all there is a culture that actually respects the dignity of human beings and the value of individuals, it has to be this culture and not any other culture. This is extremely important for us to understand, because each time I speak of bringing back our own value systems, our own legal philosophies in practice, I keep getting this question over and over again. Don't you think that if a culture comes back, then the concept of social control is back? What do you do with individual rights? What do you do with rights of, let's say, women? What most people fail to understand is that women have gained rights in the West not because of their culture, but despite their culture. And precisely why they have needed feminist movements to assert their position in the society. You don't worship the feminine, you fundamentally think of her as having come out of an adjunct part of a male body. This is the kind of treatment that you have starting from your scripture to your society. No wonder you've needed a feminist movement. So the absence of a feminist movement as far as Bharat is concerned is not proof of enslavement of women, but is the absence of the need for such a movement in the first place. When I make this particular statement, people end up asking me this question, then what do you make of child marriages? What do you make of the Parda system? Well, I'm sorry to say, blame the outsider. Blame the outsider. You have to blame the outsider. You have no other option. When you're dealing with a certain mindset which has no problems engaging in necrophilia, that is even after the body is dead, even after the person is dead, and which fundamentally does not see divinity in, let's say, a young girl, then you have no other option but to actually follow certain systems to protect your dignity. I am a fourth generation Hyderabadi Tamilian, and having lived under the Nizam, our family can certainly vouch for this particular fact. Because whether or not women of the other community were expected to wear the Parda, women of the Hindu community had to wear the Parda for the simple reason that if the Nizam's entourage was out in the streets, you never know which woman was going to be picked up. And therefore Parda was a requirement, was a compulsion. The reason I'm making all these points is that art will perform a much more powerful role in busting popular myths in young minds, much more than 1,000 books put together. It's unfortunate, it's really unfortunate that the Marxist side has actually understood the value of art as far as propagation of information is concerned. And it has effectively captured that particular space over the last 60, 70 years. I know for a fact how difficult it is to actually survive in this toxic atmosphere.